Today on Nerd and Normal, with Windows 10 support at an end and end-of-year sales coming, new computers are on shopping lists. What should you look for when you're buying a new computer?
Welcome to Nerd and Normal with Matthew and Gareth, opening your mind to the world of technology. So let's get started.
G'day Matthew, how are you today?
Not too bad, Gareth. Got back to my white shirt again. You're back to something different.
Yeah, well, I got sick of trying to dress the same as you. I was running out of red. Anyway, many years ago, in an interview with Neil Diamond, he was explaining to me why he likes handwriting as opposed to anything else and why he doesn't like computers. This is what he said.
Yeah, I do. It's longhand and it's easy because I can erase something if there's a problem. It never crashes, you know. I first got my computer in 1984, and it was fascinating. So I started writing an autobiography, and I wrote about 80 pages of it, and the thing crashed. And I didn't trust computers since then, so I don't use them very much.
Now, there, Neil Diamond. Now, I have to use a computer, sadly, and Windows 10 is going bye-byes, and you keep saying to me, Gareth, buy a computer, buy a computer. What do I buy? PC, Apple, laptop, help!
That is the biggest question, is what computer to actually buy, because the range is huge, and the choices are huge. You can buy great big computers that take up a fair bit of your desk. You can buy computers that are as big as about 4 CDs stacked together. It comes down to what you actually want to do. Have you used Apple before? Have you used Windows exclusively? Have you lived the past 4 years on Apple? If you have, it all dictates what you're going to buy. When it comes to Apple computers, they're the worst to get right now. Their prices are through the roof, to the point where anybody buying an Apple, I tell them the same thing. Don't buy a current iMac. Don't buy a MacBook, laptop. Don't buy that sort of garbage. The only one you want to touch is the Mac Mini, the small little box that Apple have, and it's buy any keyboard, any mouse, any screen. Even a Dell computer screen will work with a Mac Mini. And to the point where I've been doing people lately, one of them has a huge Dell screen they bought with the Mac Mini, and it works seamlessly.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is a Mac Mini a PC?
It's an Apple Macintosh. So people who have lived with the Apple world for such a long time, a few years ago they were cheap. They were reasonably affordable. Unfortunately, these days they're not. And so people who need to buy new Apple computers, they're going out looking, thinking they've got to buy those all-in-ones, the iMacs they've bought for a long time. They don't. Yeah. The Mac Mini is all they need. And it comes down, when you're looking at Apple, how much space you need. It's the only thing you're looking for. The amount of storage space on that computer is what dictates what you buy.
Okay. Would not also how I'm going to use or what I'm going to use that computer for also determine what I buy, be it PC or be it Apple? Forget the brand. Isn't the use first and most important issue? It
can, but it also can't be. So we'll quickly deal with Apple. If you've used Apple for a long time, your use will be Apple. Stick with it. Mac Mini, that adds lots of capacity, lots of storage. That's all you got to worry about for those ones. When it comes to the Windows world, things get much more complicated, because if all you're doing is you're going on the internet, you're doing your emails, you're not really doing a whole lot of playing of games or content creation with music and videos, you don't need a lot of power in theory, because you're looking at what the computer itself needs at least. So in terms of what kind of capacity for the brains, the CPU, does it need? Does it need enough memory for all the programs, including Windows, running in the background? Do you have enough storage space on the hard drive for all your photos and all your documents you're going to make?
I'm not a business. I'm not a large corporate organization like Telstra or Qantas or whatever. I just want to get a computer. I want to sit it in my office. I want to be able to send and receive emails. I want to be able to search the web. I want to use Google to find information. I'm giving it away that obviously I'm a PC person, not an Apple person at this particular stage. So, I mean, you mentioned CPUs and all those. That language, it's like talking a different language to me. So I go into a store, and rather than the salesman selling me what he or she wants to sell me, how do I pick the right computer for me?
The important thing whenever you go into a shop is go in there with knowledge. Knowledge is power in this situation. So they're going to try and sell you what's best for them for their commission. And if they don't get commission, what's best for the business to make more profit. You need, at minimum specifications for the CPU, the brains of the computer, where all the work is actually done.
Is that the OS?
No,
The operator?
this is even before that. This is the basic brain of the computer. This is what turns all the zeros and ones into those amazing programs we use every day.
Yeah.
That you need, there's two options, main options. You have Intel and there's AMD. They're the two main options.
Okay, but explain what they both are, because
So
that, again, different language.
Yep, they're both just different brands. It's like Holden and Ford. They're just different brands. They both do the same thing, but they're both made by different manufacturers.
Bad choice, because Holden and Ford don't exist. But be that as it may, so they're just brands. Is that all you're saying?
Exactly right. And as was the case with Holden and Ford, every brand has their own models. It's the same with CPUs with the brains. Their brands, they have their own models.
So how do I know which one to choose? You go in there with knowledge, but really the language of the IT world is very, very complicated. You talk about graphics of GPUs and CPUs and everything else, PU. How do I know what's what?
Because I'll try and walk slowly through each of the parts.
Yes, please. I'm slow. Go for it.
The important thing, we'll start with CPU first. That's the main thing. That's the brains of the computer. So you have to work out whether you want to do AMD or Intel. If you want to do AMD, you're looking only at their Ryzen. R-Y-Z-E-N. Ryzen is their model. And inside the model, like there was, say, with the Commodore, there's different stages of that model. So you have the Ryzen 3, 5, 7, and 9.
Well, they get more detailed as we go up with numbers.
Exactly right. The Ryzen 3 is the base entry model. Then Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7, Ryzen 9.
So Ryzen 9 is like the Holden GT.
Yes.
Per se. Okay,
Exactly
righto.
right. And then it's the same with Intel. And luckily, this is the one thing that happens these days, is thankfully technology companies are sort of focusing on keeping things, for the most part, something similar to each other. So on the Intel side of things, that's the brand. Their models are the I models, literally the letter I. And they have 3, 5, 7, and 9.
Okay.
So you're looking at if you're just going to do basic things on the internet, emails, internet, searches, those sort of things, you're looking at the number 3. That's the entry level. That's where you want to start.
So number 3 won't necessarily allow me to play games or do video editing or that kind of complicated graphic material. It won't allow me to do that easily or at all, correct?
It'll let you do it, but it will be slow doing it. It won't be impossible to do it, but it will be slow compared to the more powerful ones, yes.
So the higher number we go, the quicker becomes the process.
And also the more expensive it becomes as well.
Okay, so step 1 in getting the knowledge, I have to research those two terms and know which one I want to choose and why.
Exactly right.
Okay, all right. Now
you're normally using, the idea behind that is just saying which one currently has the better performance, if you find it. So it's hard to find if you're not looking in the right spots. At this point in time, AMD is beating Intel. So if you say the Bathurst 1000 has just run recently, it's like AMD won the whole race. They were 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Intel came in 5th.
All right, we've decided to buy AMD. That's what it is, AMD?
Yep.
All right, I'm going down the AMD process. So if I go into a shop and say I want to buy something at the moment that is using AMD, the person's going to think, oh, this person may know what they're talking about. Is that a fair enough assumption?
A little bit. If you say you're looking for an AMD Ryzen CPU, straight away, yes, they're going to think this person's come in here with some knowledge.
Okay, so they're not going to try and use or they may try that. Well, we won't keep downplaying the person who's trying to sell the computer. Then we've got other things like RAM. What's the connection to RAM and the two brains that you're talking about?
So those two brains, the two brands, once you've worked which one you're going to go with, that job's done. You can ignore that. Okay. Everything else is consistent. So the next thing is the memory, the RAM. This is where the programs actually live. When you open up a program, even just opening up Windows, it opens up into the RAM. The more RAM you have, the more space there is, the more programs you can open without any problems at all. Windows says in its requirements you need to have a minimum of 4 gigabytes of space.
Is that different to RAM?
No, that's it. That's the RAM. That's a memory.
Okay, so gigabyte is the amount of stuff you can put in the memory,
exactly
in the RAM.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So you need to have, they say have minimum of 4. My recommendation is always minimum of 8. if you can afford the bit extra, you want to go 16. Always go a lot more than what minimum says.
What's the most you can buy?
In the
RAM?
terabytes. You can buy a lot.
Okay.
But for most normal people, 16, they open up Windows, have their antivirus running, have their emails running, go on to Google, and while they're looking at Google, they can have YouTube playing a video.
Okay, but if I have children in the family who want to play games on my computer, do I go beyond 16 RAM?
Without a doubt. The more RAM memory you can give to the computer, the more things it can do, the better it will run, yes.
Okay, so I've chosen the brain, and I've chosen the amount of RAM I'm going to put on, depending on which was my first question, depending what that computer is going to be used for, correct? So if it's for gaming, more RAM is better than small RAM.
Both of those the same. So if it's gaming, you want more RAM and one of those higher model numbers, say a 5, 7, or 9. Okay,
now it comes down to graphics. Again, my pocket is going to determine what I end up with. So the more RAM and the higher the number, the more the cost. Is that a fair enough assumption?
Exactly right, yep.
But for PCs, it's still cheaper than Apple.
Yes. Apple charges a massive premium on everything to do with their computers.
Okay, so I suppose really, if I've been using Windows 10, which Apple doesn't, therefore I'm going to buy another computer, then clearly I'm going to buy another computer that's similar to the one I've already bought. So it's going to be a PC.
Yes.
And there are a myriad of PC brands. There's HP, there's Asus, there's Dell, there's Apple, or we've miscounted that for the moment. There's HP, etc., etc., etc. How do I choose a brand? Or do I not choose a brand? Do I get someone to build one for me?
In a perfect world, if the prices were the same, you'd go getting someone to build it for you, because they will be able to ask you every single question about what you're going to do with it, how long you use the computer for, what do you need the computer for, what's you need for capacity for your storage, all those sort of things they can ask you, and then custom build the computer to fit you. When it comes to the pre-builts you buy in the shops, the big thing I always say lately, it's been the same now for a couple of years, is nearly all the brands are the same. They all use the same basic parts inside of them. There might be, in the case of HP and Dell, might use actual proprietary parts they themselves have designed.
Yeah.
But they're using still those Intels, those AMDs. The RAM is the same. All those things stay the same, but where they all get plugged into the computer is made by them themselves. The important thing with a pre-built computer is the programs that come on them. And nearly every pre-built computer you get in a shop, say JB Hi-Fi, Harvey Norman, Bing Lee, Officeworks, they're all the same. They all come with their own pre-built-in software, and that's where you face the next biggest issue of performance, because those programs want to run when the computer starts up. And those pre-built ones you buy in the shops don't have enough RAM, quite often, enough memory to let Windows and all these other programs start at the same time.
But don't some of those brands, can't you buy more RAM for them? Is it, I mean, let's take HP, for example. Are all the HP pre-built in a shop all going to have the same amount of RAM? Or can I specify, I want a terabyte of RAM?
No, they all come with their own different models, so they all have different amounts in them. But they don't go high enough for the amount of garbage they put on those computers. So every pre-built that they make always has too much garbage, too many programs that shouldn't be required, and not enough memory or RAM to run those programs.
Okay, well, I don't know anyone. I'm sorry to be rude and interrupt, but I don't know anyone who's going to build a computer for me. So therefore, am I not limited to, you're going to have to buy a brand?
Exactly. That's pretty much the way it works. Unfortunately, we are stuck these days, most of the time, having to go out and buy one of those pre-built computers. It comes down to how much you're willing to deal with in terms of garbage programs and that affects the performance of the computer. In my experience, in over nearly 2 decades of doing this job that I do, I've noticed HP computers have the most amount of garbage on them. And they're the ones that slow down the most from all the garbage. And my recommendation always is, don't touch HP. At this point in time, don't touch them.
That's if I'm buying a desktop type PC.
This is any and all computers, laptops, desktops, all-in-one computers, the ones where the computer's inside the screen. the recommendation is always you don't want to touch HP. Their performance is so pitiful right now because of the garbage they put on their computers.
Interestingly, again, not knowing very much about computers anyway, my very first laptop type computer was a Hewlett-Packard, and I had it for quite a long time and it worked perfectly, but that I'm talking in the 80s.
Yep.
So I know it's probably a risk you actually recommending one particular brand, because you say that two brands are at the top of the tree.
I've always said my favourite brand of the bunch for many, many years in terms of the performance of the computer and the after-sale support, in my experience, has been Dell. They have the best available warranty for your computer. Their prices now are becoming a bit higher. They're becoming more of a premium brand than what they were in the past. But at the end of the day, you can organise through Dell themselves to have on-site support. So if the computer has a problem, they will send somebody out to you to fix it at no cost to yourself. And that is a huge advantage to anybody buying a computer these days.
So where does that work person come from, the Dell person? Because Dell's not an Australian brand.
No, so it's usually a local contracted technician that will come out and do things for the person that needs the issue sorted, who can get a hold of actual Dell parts.
Someone like you.
Yes,
is that what you mean?
I don't do it myself, but I do know people who have done it in the past. And that's great. The ones who come out to you actually bring with them actual Dell parts and do things. When you've bought, say, the Dell laptop for somebody like JB Hi-Fi, they don't have the ability to get the Dell technician to come out because you bought it through them. And they will always send the Dell computer to a third-party technician that store has agreements with, has contracts with.
So in other words, you've got to take it back to the store you bought it from. They don't come to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, just to be fair to other companies, you said that's what you've always recommended, and I'm sure another technician might have another choice. But sticking with you, what would be your second choice in the list of myriad choices of PCs?
Well, that's these days, that is my second choice. My number one choice now is the old IBM brand, Lenovo. They are currently my number one. The amount of garbage on the computers that they release from the factory is minimal. The point where today even, I set up a brand new Lenovo all-in-one computer, and the amount of garbage I took off the computer to start off with was minimal. It was mostly tweaking Windows to make it work as fast as possible rather than taking off all the garbage they put on there.
So did Lenovo used to be IBM, did it?
So IBM back in the early 2000s sold their consumer brand to the Chinese company Lenovo. And so all the ThinkPads, all the Think stations, all those Think branded computers became Lenovo. Yep. And initially there were issues. There were teething problems, and unfortunately there was spyware found on their computers, but that's now long since gone, to the point where I've found in my experience Lenovo computers to be the most reliable and the best value for money computers.
Can you specify the amount of RAM you have on a Lenovo you buy in the store?
So if you go into the store, they have whatever models they have that they've got shipped in from the factory, and there's different models for different purposes. Again, there's some with 4, some with 8, some with 16, and you can sort of pick and choose which ones you want to go with. Okay.
So you've covered RAM, you've covered the brain. What's the CPU?
So that's the brains, the CPU.
That's the brain. What's the words to describe what you see on the monitor while I'm waving in front of me, which is silly. I sound like a mad person.
So it's a case of there's two more main things with the computer still. There's still the video card, the graphics card, or there's the storage. So I'll tackle the storage first because that's the easiest of the two. So that's just down to, in the old days, it was the hard drive. There was a mechanical device in the computer where all the things got stored, all your programs lived, which eventually became about 2 to 4 terabytes in size, which is a huge amount of data you can store on those things.
Yep, right.
They were slow because they were mechanical. They were like a record player. They had literally a record player. They had a disc and they had a head. And the head, rather than the record player, the head actually touches the disc. On the hard drive, they can't. But the problem is, when you knocked the old mechanical hard drive and it did touch, it put a gouge through the disc and it made the disc damaged and parts of it unreadable. Luckily, in some respects, that's not available anymore.
What do we have now? A solid state.
Exactly
hard
right.
Drive. Which
means there's no moving parts. If you knock it, it doesn't really care about that at all. But it's also faster. Rather than having to spin up the disk and move the head to find the files backwards and forwards, you say open up xyz.com.
And it goes straight to that spot.
Exactly right.
So don't some computers, even in 2025, 2026, still use those spinning disk hard drives?
Not many, surprisingly. These days, they're nearly all solid state because you can get up to 8 terabyte solid state drives in those computers now, which is a huge benefit in terms of meaning there's no need for these mechanical drives. The computer here next to me actually has both a solid state drive and a mechanical drive. Most of my...
Stop. That's what I meant. You can have a solid state drive and you can have a mechanical drive. Is that what you're saying?
You can, but this has been made by me as opposed to bought from a shop. And
right.
The difference is I can tell when I turn this computer on when it's getting files off the solid state drive versus when it's getting them off the mechanical drive. The speed difference is huge.
Which one's going to last the longest, solid or mechanical?
Oh...
Sorry to ask a difficult question that you even pause on. Success.
You've almost done it. The problem is mechanical things can die immediately or they can last for a long, long time. So there's no real timestamp I can put onto that.
Okay.
But mechanical hard drives can get all of their data recovered. If a solid state drive dies, the data is pretty much lost forever.
So, side recommendation, always have a backup disk that you download everything onto completely often so that when that happens, you don't lose everything, correct?
Exactly right. That's the important thing.
The normal got one thing right. Okay, so you were talking about storage, but there was a second thing you wanted to also talk about.
There's video cards or graphics cards. So the cheaper computers don't have what they call a dedicated part, a dedicated video card inside of them. The CPU, the brains of the computer, can also be looking after the video side of things as well. And when the computers have that, they're called integrated graphics. And exactly. The terminology is ridiculous.
Yeah, okay.
But these integrated graphics are, if you're just going to do emails and things on Google, that's perfectly fine. You don't need to get these dedicated graphics that you can have.
Okay.
So if it says integrated graphics and you're just going to do emails and basic things, that's fine. If you're going to play games, though, you want dedicated graphics.
Okay, so and that's obviously going to cost more, correct?
Exactly right. And again, there's two main brands. You have AMD is one brand, and not Intel. There's another company involved. This is like Toyota jumping into the supercar series.
Yeah. Don't tell me it's Toyota.
No, this one is Nvidia. And so AMD is winning the race when it comes to brains, the CPUs between themselves and Intel.
I bet Nvidia's winning the race when it comes to graphics, right?
You've got it in one.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, duh.
So it's literally, if you want the best performing computer, you want an AMD CPU and an Nvidia graphics.
Can you put that in the notes below?
I can put that in the notes. Because the problem you have now is, as we said with the CPUs, there's two different models and there's all different... There's different brands and multiple models. There's the same thing with video cards as well. And it gets really complicated because each of these models also has multiple amounts of memory inside of them. So you have the computer's memory, the RAM, but then every video card has its own RAM inside of it as well. And again, the more memory, the more RAM, the better it works.
You mean the quicker or the better, or both?
Both. Because say you're trying to play a game and it's trying to show you 120 or thereabout frames per second of that video from the game. It has to try and be able to compute inside of it, the video card, the brains of the video card has to be able to compute what this has to do and then save that to its memory before showing it on the screen. So if the memory is huge, it can do more things.
All right. Again, off the top of my head from another silly question, the computer I have at the moment, which you tell me is now going to have to be replaced eventually because of Windows 10, it has a number of USB ports in it. What determines the best number of USB ports? Why do I need them and how many should I have?
You should have more than you need, a lot more. And the issue comes down to how many you're given. Computer manufacturers have to pay for every single part in that computer. Every single part, including every USB slot they put in there.
Okay.
So if they have 6 USB slots, they've got to pay for each of those USB slots. You need to have more than what you think you need because you end up with a USB stick, you end up with a camera, you end up with a microphone. You end up with a USB hard drive for backing up things. You end up plugging your phone in or your camera in to get photos off. And then your mouse and your keyboard as well. The number of things you've got to plug in always increases, never decreases. So you want to have a lot more USB slots than you think you need.
So does the general, without mentioning any brands again, does the general manufacturer, the one you buy in the store, come with a variety of numbers with a USB?
Not
or
really,
are they
no.
all fixed? No, they're fixed.
It's usually between 3 to 4 or 5. It's ridiculous.
And are you able to buy an external USB port that you can plug into one of those computer USBs that will give you a greater access? Is that a possibility?
You can get what they call a USB hub, which allows you to plug it into one USB slot and gives you 4, 5, 6 extra USB ports you can plug things into. Unfortunately, the performance of those affects the performance of the whole computer because you're trying to put through data through the one USB plug for multiple devices. It affects the whole thing. It's the reason why these days my recommendation is rather than having a keyboard and mouse you plug in, you should try, if you can, if you're not playing games, try Bluetooth. Most computers these days have Bluetooth built into them, and Bluetooth means there's no USB needed for your mouse or your keyboard.
Okay, you're making my need to get a new PC very, very complicated, but I hope what you're saying is being understood by someone watching. And listen, watching as you are, we'd love you to like what we're doing if you like what we're doing for you, and also share what we're doing, because Matthew, even though he's a different part of Australia to me, he is a genius at what he does with IT, so what he says is pretty accurate.
Can I just also say, if you have your own ideas what we should talk about, or you want to have your input into the conversation, don't forget to comment down there as well. One thing from a couple of weeks ago I've got to quickly comment on is another option that I don't want to really touch on too much. There's a system called Linux that you can get on computers. Really, it's not ready for the majority of people to use. It just adds to confusion, but it is an option if you want to try and research that at all.
Okay, all right. Now, we've mentioned USBs and the ports. My son tells me that there's a new, and I don't want to talk about it now necessarily, there's a new thing called USB 4, and we have so many different USB plugs. We've got Lightning, we've got USB-A, USB-C, etc., etc. We should do perhaps a session on just USB, the variety, and why we have a variety.
I think sort of the history of USB and why we have it to begin with, because USB wasn't always there. And it's changed, it's evolved over the years, it's got faster, it allows for more data, it allows for more power. You charge your phone using USB. Yeah, and depending on which USB plug you've got, if you go into a place where there's not the right USB plug, then you can't charge your phone, you're in trouble. Another silly thing, two things we haven't spoken about is the monitor, the thing I look at when I play with the computer, and also desktop or laptop. So what about the monitor? How do I choose that? If you've already got one, chances are it'll work fine with a new computer. Okay. The only thing you've got to look out for is on the back of your computer how the monitor plugs into the current computer. If you've got the old-fashioned, the blue, great big chunky connector with the call either D-sub or VGA, those aren't on every new computer. So check to see if your computer, if your screen currently has either HDMI, like a lot of TVs have, that sort of smaller black thing. If it doesn't have that, it might have what they call DVI, which is the great big long white one with all those pins. That is the same as HDMI, no difference at all, and you can get a cable that goes between the two of them. So the screen you've got should be fine for you. Okay, laptop or desktop? This comes down to personal preference, because while desktops have more power at the end of the day, there's not enough to mean that somebody doing basic things can't survive on a laptop. Plus, you can buy laptops that can play video games reasonably well. And if you're thinking, oh, I want to be able to sit in front of a nice big screen and a keyboard and a mouse, you can. You can always plug a keyboard, mouse, and a screen into a laptop. But if you buy a laptop, you can't upgrade it or add things to its brain power, can you? It's fixed. The majority of the pre-built, even desktop computers, they're also solidly fixed and things soldered together where you can't replace them these days easily either. So it comes down to horses for courses. Do you want the convenience of these days a little tiny box beside your computer screen and keyboard and mouse, in which case the little micro PCs that they have from certain manufacturers at stores are perfect because they're small, they're out of the way, you can't really see them.
Yeah.
You can even wall mount them and they fit fine on the wall, or even put them under the desk. And they've got all the power pretty much of what a desktop, a full-size desktop will have. Or you can have a laptop computer plugged into the screen, keyboard and mouse and have it acting like a normal computer. But if you want more power, you can go with the actual great big box, or if you want a simple solution, those all-in-one where the screen actually is the computer and you can have literally a power cable going into the screen. That's it. The rest of it's all wireless.
So what I glean from today's session is knowledge is power. Before you go into any store, make sure you know what the terms are and what you need for your activity each day. And if it's for playing games, well, that's going to require more of this than that. So go in with knowledge and buy wisely, but you must upgrade before the end of 2026. Correct?
What I'll do, I'll put in the notes below some different sort of parts to look out for, but yes, everyone has, with Windows 10, as long as you do the end-of-life support upgrade, you have until pretty much November 2026. There's a year of research to go.
Okay. Once again, thank you for your education of this very old and very feeble brain of mine. And I believe next week we're going to be looking at whether we choose an Android or an iPhone. Is that
We're going
correct?
to tackle the age-old question of mobile phones. Which one is best for you?
Yeah, no, best for you. Not what do you think is the best brand, but what is best for you.
Exactly.
And what is the least expensive.
That's going to be fun.
Bring back the old Windows phone, right?
Exactly right. It's what I like.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for your knowledge.
See you next time, Gareth. Today on Nerd and Normal, with Windows 10...
That's our first blooper. There we go. Notice all the bloopers come from Matthew, the IT
Had
expert.
none last week or the week before. Come on. I'm allowed them again.
And I wrote about 80 pages of it, and the thing crashed. And I didn't trust computers since then.